And we're recording now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my name is Maureen Chernag. Today we are going to be learning electronic patterning for double-faced tablet weaving, or as I refer to it, cheating with computers because I can't draw. And a little bit about me. I am currently the Baroness of the Barony of Wiesenfeuer in Northern Ansteorra. I've been doing various types of band weaving for going on about, say, 8 years now. I've done inkle, just traditional inkle, then a little bit of pickup, a little bit of brocade, some woven in card, but my happy place is double-faced weaving. That's the type I enjoy the most. So that's what we're going to go over today. I am not going to be teaching how to weave double-face with a technique. That is something that I personally have a difficult time teaching virtually, but would be happy to teach in person. And I did include a link to a handout for my in-person class at the end of this slideshow. And the Google file for the slideshow is in the chat of the Zoom and shared on the event page for those who want to access it later. Traditionally, people who, or the majority of the people who I've talked to who also do double-faced weaving, most of them draw out their patterns on graph paper. And this is some of what that can look like. Like I said, personally, I am not good at drawing, so this is really difficult for me personally. But I can follow these patterns, I just can't create them. So this is what those would look like. Some people who use computers to make their patterns will use Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets or something similar like that because it already has the blocks built in. One thing I will mention if you do this is it takes a lot of formatting of your Excel document before you can start patterning, though, to make the shapes, the individual cells long and narrow like you would have in your band anyway. So there's a lot of setup there, but it's pretty simple once you get into it, though, because you're just changing the colors of the cells, and that's pretty quick. These are some examples of double-faced Excel patterns. The center one was made in Google SketchUp, but it looks similar to Excel, so I put it on the slide. I am not familiar enough with Google SketchUp to teach someone how to use that program. However, if you are familiar with Google SketchUp, I would be happy to share patterns with you through that. But once again, it's pretty simple. The cells are there. You just fill in the colors, and from there you can count which colors are what, or which cells are color A and which cells are color B to figure out your pattern then. And this would give you a pretty good view of how your pattern is going to look once it's completed. The big thing we're going to be going over today is using a program called Guntram's Tablet Weaving Thingy, which I'm going to abbreviate to GTT. And the link for it is below. This is a program that an individual created for his own personal use and then shared for the public to use. So it doesn't get uploaded frequently because he created it for him. He didn't create it as a project to sell. So it is free to use, but it also, if there's a bug in it, there's just a bug in it. And it also hasn't been updated since 2004. So there is that as well. But it's a really brilliant computer program. It was designed to use for threaded in patterns. I personally have not tried to create threaded in patterns through it, but I have used it to use other people's patterns that they have shared freely online that were in files formatted for his program. So I can kind of tell you how to follow a pattern that is in GTT format. This is a step-by-step guide of how to go through and make a pattern using GTT, and as a handout to help you later, and it has pictures of where everything's going to be. But I'm going to go through that and actually make a pattern on screen for you later. So I'm just going to scroll through that real quick. And these are images of things that I have done. All but one of them is my original pattern. And I have them labeled as what I designed them in. The butterflies and diamonds was designed, well, the butterflies were designed in SketchUp. The diamonds I did freehand. The sheet music was designed in SketchUp. And like it says, I will teach you how to do this. Please do not ask me to make you sheet music. It's a beautiful thing that I'm really proud of having done. However, that took almost a year. And it was a lot. But I will teach people how to do it. And I will teach you how to pattern for it. It was a great project. This one in the bottom left-hand corner was the first piece of double-faced tablet weaving I did. I was taught by Ayla Von Aschencook, formerly of Moonshadow. She actually showed me that on graph paper under the Moonshadow Pavilion at Gulf Wars and just taught it to me on the spot. And then I figured it out more and more as I went home from war. The floors in the top right were designed on GTT, and actually that's what this example is showing you was where I started from. I ended up pulling out the curls in the floors on the sides here, but eventually this band is what came out of that. And the crossed shovels at the end, or on the bottom right-hand corner, were designed using Microsoft Excel. They were asked to be similar to Minecraft shovels, if anyone's familiar with that. And then in the middle there is a silly meme because I wanted to take up space. And I'm personally not a big fan of housework. Like I said at the beginning, the link down at the bottom is a link to the handout for my in-person double-face weaving class. If you are familiar with card weaving, that you might be able to pick it up from just the handout, but like I also said, I am more than happy to teach that in person at a future date. If there's an event you are going to that you would like me to teach at, just send me an email. My email is in the signature on the majority of the slides. Or you can contact me on Facebook. I use the same name on Facebook as I use in SCA because I really only use Facebook for SCA activities. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. And if it's not a formal class you would like, I can also teach it in person, one-on-one. I'm happy to do that at events as well. Okay, so now on to making a pattern with GTT because it is the most complicated. This is the link of where you would find GTT to download it. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up so you can see what it looks like. I doubt anyone here is working on a computer that is previous to Windows 95, but the author has said that if you are working under something older than Windows 95, this may not work properly. And there's some guides for using it, but the main file is right here. And yes, I was right. It hasn't been modified since 2004, so there might be some bugs, but I haven't found any personally. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and this is what it looks like. It's this little, looks like a tablet icon. And today I want to make a pattern for the New Principalities Heraldry because that is where I live and I haven't done that yet. And I like to donate my weaving to groups. That's a thing that makes me personally happy. I've already gone ahead and downloaded a clip art of the type of star that the Principality heraldry uses. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up Microsoft Paint, because that's where you need to start. And I'll open my desktop. No, desktop. Vinheim star. So you can see here, after finding the image, you save it in clip art, or save the image as a monochrome bitmap image. So that would be file, save as, other formats. It's not going to be in your main area. Or did I get, okay. They're here. Monochrome bitmap. That's going to reduce the clarity, but that's okay. It's going to warn you a lot. Basically what it did is it pixelated it an awful lot, which is great for us. And then we're going to resize by pixels. Here's the resize button by pixels. Now, how this works is we are going to want the pixel count on the horizontal to be the number of threads that we're going to want in our band. Now, with card weaving, I usually, with the tightness I weave, 25 cards is half an inch for me, using size 10 crochet cotton. And the thicker your band, the more detail you're going to be able to present in that horizontal. So with that star being a 6-pointed star, there's not an awful lot of detail to it. So I'm going to try it at the 1 inch and see how pixelated it gets and whether or not that's going to look like it's clear for us. We're going to want to maintain the aspect ratio. So I'm going to keep that box checked. And I'm going to go ahead and make the horizontal pixels 50. And it's pretty much square, so that's nice. That's not always the case. Okay. And that's going to shrink it down. Let me see if I can zoom in. That's not too bad. There's still some pretty clean lines there. You can still tell that it's supposed to be a star, so that's pretty good. We should be able to get a decent looking star with 50 cards. I've had some designs before where I had to maybe go to a smaller size thread and so I could up the card count, or just accept that I was going to have a thicker band. In this, that's not so much the case. You can also see that my cursor has turned into, Vigdis, do you have a question?
Do you have to account for the elongation?
That I'm going to get into that.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. That's a valid question. And
this is exactly what I've been trying to design all week. And you're okay. Already, you got done in 3 minutes, what took me like 5 days. So this is excellent.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad that this can help you with a specific project as well, because I hadn't decided until yesterday what I was going to do, because usually I'll pick up like somebody in the room's main charge for their heraldry when I'm teaching this class. But I decided this time to give it to the Principality. Okay, so the next step after turning it into a bitmap image and making it to the size with the number of threads we want is, let me make sure my slide is correct. We're going to resize by percentage. And this part, it's scary, but trust the process, because it's going to make your image look horrible. But when we open it in GTT, It's going to fix the elongation issue. This is what fixes the stretching. Okay. So we're going to resize it by percentage. We're going to uncheck the maintain aspect ratio box this time. We're going to have the horizontal at 100%, the vertical at 50%. That's what's going to fix the stretch. And it's going to make the image look like it's ruined, but I promise it's not. Okay, wait, now we're still in Paint. Okay. So we're going to go to Home. We're going to go to Resize. We're going to see it's on percentage this time and not pixels. We're going to uncheck this maintain aspect ratio box and take this vertical. I'm going to make it 50. Okay. And see now it looks real smushed. Looks real silly. Looks like one of the Mario stars, but I promise you, it's not going to work out that way. So that's not the button I wanted. This is the button I wanted. Okay. And we're going to save it this way. I like to save them as different things that way. Oh no, I did it. I saved it as the main. It's okay. But usually I will go in and I will save it as a different file. And I'll name it Vinheim Star GTT, so that I know it's ready to be brought into GTT next time I open it, and I know I'm opening the correct file. So then I'll go into GTT and I'm going to open, or no, my bad. First you have to hit the create, sorry. You hit create and you go down to double face pattern. And in this, usually I would say go into simple 2-color, but this time, because of the pattern I'm doing, I'm going to go into multiple colors. And where's the next? Okay. Sure that's correct. Now we're going to open. And I just saved this one, I believe, to the desktop. We're going to open from all files. Vinheim Star GTT. This is the one I wanted. Oh. There's, okay, give me just a moment. I just encountered an error for the first time. I've not seen that error before. Let me see what I can do about that.
Are you supposed to have selected real image first?
No, real image is what this computer program will interpret what that design is going to look like on your weaving once it's woven afterwards. And that's what real image is. If I were to do this, and then it's going to show there as it would in the band.
Okay. Is it under design? What you're looking for?
It should just allow me to open it, but maybe. Import monochrome bitmap. You are correct. That's what I should have done. It's not opening. Openings for using a file that already exists. You're correct. Okay, so import monochrome bitmap.
That's why you had the XML error.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a little bit since I've done this. Okay. And oh, there we go. And see how it looks like it did originally before we messed with the aspect percentages. And in here, you can go in, and when you click on an image, it's going to change the color of it. So I could, if I wanted this to be straight, to straighten up these points a little bit and to make sure it's mirrored. If I wanted to do that, I can go ahead and change it. And then when you flip over to real image, it's going to show you mostly how it's going to look in the band. Which tells me I would want personally, not that, a little bit more definition in the top points. I'm going to shrink that a little bit there, and I'm not going to make a perfect pattern today. I want to spend a lot more time on it than I have in this class, but it gives you that kind of space. And then what I can also do is, okay, that didn't work. Maybe. Okay, there we go. That'll change the background. And then oh no, we're gonna undo that. That was bad. Okay, now the undo button's not working. There we go. We'll just do that. And I want this pattern to be yellow. And I want the background to be red. And when you're warping up your loom, it'll show you down here at the bottom how your cards should be positioned. Every other card is going to be S, every other card is going to be Z, so that you can get those clear straight lines in your vertical. Or, well, they'll be slightly tilted, but they'll be as straight as you can manage with tablets, in my experience. And if I was weaving this, I would probably want to do half red and half black with the gold star. That is how I would do it. And I could make it happen on here or on the screen, but since it would be my pattern, I would just know, okay, at a halfway point after card number 25, the other 25 cards, instead of warping red for holes C and D, I would warp black for those. So it's going to give you the background of the same color. I mean, the background of the different color, and your design would be the same color of the gold. And in the reverse, you would have, on the reverse image of the reverse side of the band, that wasn't what we would be seeing now, would be the exact opposite. So if I had the band split, the background of the band split in half with black and red, and the star is gold. On the reverse side of the band, the background would be gold and the star would be half red and half black. Now, I personally wouldn't want to show that side because it wouldn't match the heraldry. However, that's what it would show. If you were to sew this onto a garment or something, you would never see that side. But if somebody wanted to use it as a bag strap or a basket strap or a belt even, or something like that, then the other side would be visible. Does anybody have any questions?
So suppose I looked at this and said, that's just really not enough detail for me. I think I need to do it with 75 cards. Is there a way to scale it up easily in GTT, or would you go back to Paint and redo that scaling by percentages?
I would go back to Paint and do the scaling by percentages.
This business with Paint is going to make everything so much easier.
It is, because what it basically does is it takes and turns your image that you're working from into pixels, and then each individual pixel is a square in GTT. So if you have it ratioed to 75 pixels in the horizontal, that's exactly how many cards you're going to have.
That's just so smart.
I did not come up with this process. I've got to say, I went through a handful of different online tutorials to get here, and then I just put it all into a PowerPoint, so I cannot take credit for it.
I have been drawing and weaving and then changing the weaving and trying to write down what I changed. And, it's just very, and I've done stuff in GTT before, but without the bitmap thing in Paint, it still is kind of random. Just what if I did this? But to be able to go from the image through Paint really makes it much easier.
I found that it does too, and it really can depend on a couple of different things, how well it works. But a simple geometric shape like this is really the easiest to do. The butterfly I had in my slides took a lot longer to get identifiable. I think I went through back and forth from GTT and Paint a good 10 times just to get something that looked vaguely like a butterfly, and then I added detail in GTT afterwards.
Wow.
For the drawing, for the design on the wings, but just to get the shape of the wings proper, I went back and forth a whole bunch of times. And having to switch back and forth from program to program like that is a little bit complicated, but that's the easiest way I've been able to come up with it. And before I figured out how to do this in GTT, before reading all those different tutorials, I was using mainly Google SketchUp to do it. And I don't really understand Google SketchUp. I don't. My husband went into Google SketchUp and created a graph like this that had the elongated cells and showed me how to put the picture I was working on behind the graph. And then I could color in squares as I went and go from there. But that's a hard thing for me to share with others because it's a program that has so many different layers because so many people use it for so many different things that it starts off really simple, but it can become more and more complicated, especially since it's a 3D space, that I just couldn't conceive of a way to teach someone else how to use it because I barely understand it myself.
So do you have advice for looking at a pattern for something that's more complex than this? I don't know, maybe if we wanted to do a animal or something like that. There's lots of things that look fine in the pixels, but change a lot when it's actually woven.
Okay. Let me go through and see if I can pull up some of my old GTD patterns. No, that's not where I want to go. Here.
Like that one, yeah.
This one? Okay. This is one I did as a commission for somebody in another kingdom. I'm gonna go to open with. No, that didn't work. Okay.
I guess just looking at that, what strikes me is there's the teeth, and I feel like depending on which way the twist went in the cards, they might look like teeth or they might look like little lollipops, or some lines are straight and some lines are wavy. And is it just a matter of?
I had a hard time getting to my OneDrive from the desktop or from the GTD. So let me go ahead and move that to my desktop. And I'm going to open from the desktop. Go to all files. Starting with a D. Where did it go?
Oh, there. It was alphabetically under prow.
Oh, okay. There we go. You're right. Oh, nope. Okay. I did the same thing again. Goodness. Okay. Image, import monochrome bitmap image. I have a picture on my slides reminded me to do that, and I didn't do it. Okay. Then you get something like this. But I made this pattern 100 cards. Let me go ahead and minimize where I have y'all on the camera so we can scroll down. Let me see if I can, it doesn't let me zoom out.
So can we look at the real image?
Yes.
And do you find that when you're looking at this, that lines that look distinct will stay distinct in the piece?
Usually, yes. Now, right here around the neck where it looks a little jagged on the back side of the neck, that didn't come out jagged when I wove it. It came out looking a lot straighter of a line there. And the teeth were distinct in the image that I wove. So were the bumps in the nostril and the slight bit of pupil there in the eye. The definition in the ears, not as much.
So do you just have, is it your experience that tells you that this is going to look okay?
Oh, not at all. I figure it, like, I'll go with this and I'm like, that's a good start. And I'll write it all down because I can't look at this and weave. It's constant counting for me. What I'll do is I will start at the bottom and I will go, okay, that's 100 red. This is 39 red, 3 yellows, 5 reds, 3 yellows, 32 red. And I'll go from there and I'll write it all down all the way up to the top of the pattern. And then I'll start to weave. And as I'm weaving and seeing things, because you're going to see pretty quickly as it goes, if you can have the original image up next to you, you'll be able to see whether or not the lines are coming out the way you want to as you're going to an extent. But I'll do the first pass of the pattern as I'm going, or as I wrote it down. And then I'll look at which lines didn't do exactly what I wanted, and I'll kind of make like flyby changes and jot them down in my notes. And then I'll come back in here and I'll go, okay, so this line up here is off. It came into the bitmap not correct. So I'm going to come in and all the way across, clean that up. I'm not going to go all the way across right now, or I'll go, you know what? These two dots right here made a distortion with the pupil. So I'm going to go ahead and delete them. And this right here was just too much for the teeth. Or these dots didn't show up anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and delete them out of the ear. And then I'll try it again and just keep editing the pattern as I go until I get something I'm happy with.
So it's just iterative like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've still got to play with it. This gives you a really good start, but you've still got to kind of play with it as you're weaving.
That makes sense.
But this does give you a pretty decent understanding of what it's going to end up looking like when it's woven. I've seen the real image function of this program work a lot better for woven in patterns than it does for double face.
Yeah, that would just be easier to predict, I think.
Mm-hmm. Especially because most of them are repeats. And that's the other thing I like about double face personally is that you're not locked into a pattern once you're going. Most woven in patterns how you warp the cards is what you're gonna get. You could turn it in different combinations, but you only have so many options. When you've got something warped up for double face, sometimes I've gone into teaching a double face class with no idea what I'm gonna do. I haven't decided yet. So I warp it the same way every time. It doesn't really matter. The question is, how in depth are my patterns going to be? Is how many cards I'm going to want. So if I'm going with simple geometric shapes because I'm teaching someone, I'll start with 50 cards and then I can go through and I feel like making triangles. I feel like making hollow triangles. Now I'm going to make squares, now hollow squares. And that's usually what I start people with, but I could warp up my entire 4 yards of loom before teaching that class, teach that person 5 or 6 shapes until they get the understanding down of the concept, let them do a few feet of it, and then decide to use the rest of the warp to do text and lettering or something entirely different. And I don't have to unwarp my loom for that change. I'll just cut off the part of the band that wasn't what I decided I wanted after that. And I feel like it just gives me a lot more freedom. Does anybody else have any other questions or anything like that? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing then. Did I miss something in the chat? Oh no, that was a link to the handout. Okay. Awesome. Oh, and it's 5:15. So we've got about like 10 minutes left till the next class. Or is this the last class of the day?
This is the last class.
Okay. Cool.
Do you want me to stop the recording now or do you want to continue?
Yeah, you can stop the recording now. Thank you.